The first cold always came to New York like a rumor. One week the city was bright with October colors, pumpkins on stoops in Brooklyn, steam rising from food trucks in Midtown, tourists in light jackets taking photos in Central Park. And then, almost overnight, the wind turned sharp and everyone started walking faster. On one of those days, when the sky was the gray of wet sidewalks and the wind kept pushing newspapers down 14th Street, a 10-year-old girl sat on a piece of cardboard near Union Square. Her name was Nora. She was small for her age. With brown hair, she tried to keep in a ponytail even though she didn't always have an elastic, and eyes that noticed everything. That was how she survived. She watched. She watched which coffee shop workers sometimes came out with extra pastries at closing. She watched which security guards looked away, and which didn't. She watched which people actually saw her. Most didn't. In front of her, on the cardboard, she had lined up the things she owned that still looked like they were worth something. A plastic ballerina with one arm taped back on, a yellow dump truck with a wobbling wheel, a stuffed rabbit whose fur had gone thin in spots, 3 books from a shelter box, one about a dog, one about numbers, one about Christmas. On a piece of brown paper bag she had written, in small, careful letters, selling my toys to buy food. Thank you. She didn't write, I am alone. She didn't write, my mom is gone. She didn't write, I don't want to go back to the shelter because they said I can't keep my rabbit. Grown-ups didn't like a lot of words. They liked quick stories. Hungry, help, that was enough. People walked by. They always did. New York was a city of rushing coats, black, navy, camel, of headphones, of sorry.
If someone looked at her, it was sideways.
The way you look at a street performer you don't have money for. One woman, holding a hot coffee, paused. She read the sign, looked down at the rabbit. How much? She asked, maybe just to see what the girl would say. Nora lifted her chin. $2. That's a lot, the woman said, but not unkindly. It's clean, Nora said. I don't have lice. I wash it. The woman hesitated, then reached in her purse and pulled out 3 crumpled singles. Keep the bunny. For you. She put the money in the little plastic food container that served as a cup. Thank you, Nora whispered. The woman smiled briefly and was gone, her coffee cup steaming in the cold. That was how it was. A little kindness, and then a big emptiness again. Behind Nora was a wall with posters layered on top of each other. Concerts, lost cats, a poetry reading. Above her, the branches in the square were almost bare. Every time the wind blew, more leaves skittered across the pavement, red and yellow and brown, like little things trying to get home. Nora didn't tell anyone, but she missed inside. She missed warm. She missed a table to lean on. She missed the sound of her mother's voice telling her what time it was, even if it was to hurry. Her mother had gotten sick in the spring. It was the kind of sick that kept her in bed, then in a hospital, and then nowhere at all. After that, everything had been a hallway of offices. Social workers, forms, a shelter in Queens where it smelled like laundry and nerves. People were not mean, but they were full of problems, full of noise, full of rules. And when they said, "You can't keep the dog-eared rabbit, honey. We have to throw away things that are too old," something in Nora decided, then I can't stay here. Because if they took the last soft thing, what was left? So she slipped out. Kids did that in New York. They disappeared into the noise. She already knew the subway lines her mom used. She knew how to ride and not get checked. She knew how to be small. She had a few dollars from odd people giving her money just because she was alone. She figured, I can sell, I can earn, I can last until I figure out what's next. But days got shorter. Nights got louder. And hunger had a way of making what's next very small. That afternoon, the wind picked up, and Nora clutched the sleeves of the too big sweatshirt she wore. It had once been pink. Now it was the color of New York rain. She whispered to herself, as she often did. Just $10. 10 and I can get bread and soup, maybe hot chocolate. 10 felt like a mountain. People kept passing. None of them knew that 10-year-old girls should not be outside alone in late October. None of them knew she had slept the night before in a recessed doorway on 12th Street, using her backpack as a pillow. None of them knew that under the sweatshirt, her ribs were sharper than they should be. And then, as the gray day started fading into an early dusk, someone did see her. It wasn't a person. It was a dog. He came trotting in from the side, nose low to the ground, fur the color of rust and old snow. Not old and broken, but not a shiny puppy either. His tail wagged low, a little cautious, the way animals move when they've learned the street can hurt. Nora froze for a moment. She liked dogs, who didn't? But she'd also seen men yell and throw things at strays. And if the dog knocked over her toys, maybe people would stop even looking. This dog, though, slowed down when he saw her. His eyes were a warm brown, bright and hopeful. "Hey," Nora whispered. "You lost too?" He sniffed the cardboard. He sniffed the rabbit. He looked up at her face, like he was checking her smell. She put her hand out slowly. "I don't have food." The dog licked her fingers anyway. She laughed, a small, surprise sound she hadn't made in days. "You don't care, huh?" He sat, just like that, like she had whistled or given a command she didn't know she had given. He sat by her knee and leaned against her, sharing his warmth. Nora looked around, expecting someone to shout, "Hey, that's my dog." But no one did. People barely looked. Only now, when they did glance over, they saw a girl and a dog, and that was different. There is something in people that softens when they see loyalty. A man in a heavy coat and a Wall Street face slowed. "That your dog?" he asked. "He found me," Nora said. The man's eyes changed. He took out his wallet and dropped a $5 into the container. "Take care of him." "I will," Nora said, like she was accepting a job. Half an hour later, a teenager with pink headphones and a glittery phone case bent down. "Aw, he's so cute," she petted the dog's head. "What's his name?" Nora hadn't thought that far. "Rusty," she said because of the color. "He's Rusty. Hi, Rusty," the girl cooed. Then, almost as an afterthought, she dropped $2. For him. Rusty, for his part, puffed his chest, proud to have earned something. Nora stared at the money. This was easier. People saw the dog and didn't think about their own problems for a second. They thought about kindness. "Good boy," she whispered, scratching behind his ear. He leaned harder into her, as if he was thinking, "Good girl." That night, Nora counted. Between the woman with the coffee, the man with the suit, the girl with the headphones, and a few others who smiled at the sight of a shivering girl and a patient mutt, she had $12.43. $12 was warm food. It was a deli sandwich, a cup of soup, maybe even something extra for Rusty. "Come on," she told him when the square started emptying. "We gotta go before it's dark." He followed her without question. They went to a deli on 3rd Avenue that Nora had learned was friendly. The owner was a man from Yemen with tired eyes who had 6 kids of his own and understood hunger. When he saw Nora, he waved. "You again?" he said. "Cold already." "Yeah," Nora said. "Can I get soup? And a roll?" He looked over the counter and saw the dog. "Dog too?" "He's good," Nora said quickly. "He won't make mess," the man sighed, the long sigh of someone who gave away too much food but kept doing it anyway. "Okay, soup for you." "I put chicken bits in, yes?" "For dog." Nora's eyes shone. "Thank you." They ate outside. She sat on the curb. Rusty sat close, his eyes on her bowl but waiting. She blew on the broth and let him have the meat. She didn't even mind when his tongue grazed her fingers. "We're partners now," she told him. "You stay with me, okay? Don't run off." Rusty's answer was simple. He rested his head on her lap. That night, in the doorway where she had slept before, it was different. She had someone to tuck her feet against. She had a heartbeat near her. The city still roared, sirens, distant music, someone arguing in Spanish. But the loneliness wasn't empty anymore. She whispered to him, like kids whisper to stuffed animals. "I used to have a mom. She'd like you." She liked dogs on Instagram. She said when we got a house we'd get one. We didn't get a house. Rusty snuffled. "It's okay," she said, though it wasn't. "We'll get something." In the morning, she woke to find Rusty already watching the street, like a guard. He stood when she stood. When she walked, he walked. And day by day, the pattern began. Find a safe spot, spread the toys. Rusty lies down beside her. People notice. Coins drop. They were surviving. But surviving on the street is like walking on ice. One bad moment, one mean person, and everything cracks. It was a Friday, the coldest one yet. The sky hung low and colorless. People had their collars up, hats pulled down, headphones on. The steam from subway grates made ghosts around ankles. By noon, Nora had done well, better than usual. A man on a bike had stopped to give her $10 because of the dog, he'd said. A tourist family from Ohio or Iowa, somewhere flat, had bought the toy truck for their little boy and given her extra because we're blessed. She had $21 and some coins. To Nora, that was riches. She thought, I can eat 2 days. I can get Rusty real dog food. I can maybe buy gloves from the dollar store. She kept the money in a zippered pencil case inside her backpack, not in the container. You learned quick. Coins in front, bait. Real money, hidden, still, kids watched. Not little kids. Bigger kids. 4 of them, maybe 13 to 15, with oversized hoodies and that restless look of people who wanted to feel powerful for 5 minutes. They'd been circling the square, talking loud, shoving each other. Rusty had watched them, muscles tense. When they came closer, Nora's stomach dropped. Yo, what you doing? The tallest one said, kicking the corner of her cardboard. I'm selling, Nora said. Her voice was steady the way her mother's had been when talking to doctors. If you sounded sure people didn't push so hard. Selling? Another boy laughed. Who's buying this trash? It's not trash, Nora said. Rusty stood and growled low. Oh, doggy mad, the third boy said. You gonna bite me, doggy? He pretended to kick. Rusty barked sharp and real. People glanced over, but New York people were used to noise. They saw kids, a dog, a girl, maybe siblings, maybe nothing, and kept going. Call him off, the tall one said, his face changing. There was something under his bravado, a thin line of fear. Call him off or I'll kick him. Don't, Nora said quickly, putting a hand on Rusty's neck. He's good. He won't hurt you. He better not. The boy's eyes dropped to her container. Yo, you got money in there. Nora's heart pounded. That's for food, yeah? The boy grinned, but it wasn't happy. We need food too. We can share, Nora said, desperate. I can buy us. I can get... The second boy darted forward, faster than she expected, and yanked her backpack. Nora grabbed the strap. Rusty lunged, barking, teeth bared. It got messy, fast. Get the dog. Someone shouted, Chill, chill, another boy said, but he was laughing. Rusty bit the sleeve of one of the boys. Not hard enough to tear skin, but hard enough to scare. The boy screamed and swung his arm. His hand caught Nora across the cheek. Pain exploded hot. Stop, she cried. Please, it's all I have. The tall boy ripped the backpack from her hands. He unzipped it, dumped it out. The pencil case fell, heavy with the day's earnings. He snatched it up. Thanks, charity case, he said. Rusty jumped again. This time the boy kicked. His sneaker hit Rusty in the ribs. The dog yelped and fell back, whimpering, more shocked than hurt. Hey, a woman shouted from across the street. Leave her alone. But the boys were already running, laughing, the pencil case in hand. They vanished into the October crowd the way pigeons scatter, there then gone. Nora stared after them, chest heaving. Her cheek stung. Her knees shook. Rusty crawled back to her, whining, licking her hand like I tried. I tried. It's okay, she whispered, though it wasn't. It's okay. It's okay. She picked up her things, books, the rabbit, the sign. People were looking now. Some had their phones out, but no one chased the boys. No one brought back the money. Are you all right? An older man asked, hovering but not too close. They took it, Nora said, voice breaking. They took all of it. I was gonna buy food. The man shifted uncomfortably. Kids these days. He reached in his pocket, pulled out $1. Here, $1. After she had had 21. Thank you, she whispered, because you said thank you, even when it hurt. When he left, she sat back down. Rusty pressed against her. The cold felt colder. The city felt bigger. She tried staying the rest of the afternoon, but it was no good. Her face was puffy on one side. Her eyes were red. People looked and thought trouble, not help. By dusk, she had $2.70. Not enough for soup for her and the dog, not enough for a sandwich and water. In the deli, the owner frowned. "What happened to your face?" "Nothing," Nora said, staring at the floor. "Someone hit you?" "Kids," he sighed. "I give you soup, okay? You pay later." But she knew he gave too much already. She shook her head. "No, it's okay. It wasn't okay. Hunger makes you think about things you said you wouldn't do. It makes you think about stealing. It makes you think about calling the shelter and saying, 'Fine. Throw away the rabbit. I'll sleep on a cot with strangers.' It makes you think about crying in front of everyone." She went back to her doorway. Rusty was limping a little but wagged his tail anyway. "I'm sorry," she told him, tears hot in the cold air. "I can't even feed you." Rusty didn't blame her. He never would. Nora curled up, arms around him, trying to make the hunger smaller. That was when a car stopped. Not a taxi. Not a delivery van. A dark, clean car that didn't belong on that block at that hour. The door opened, and a man stepped out, adjusting his coat against the wind. He was young. Not like a dad in his 40s, but not a college kid either. Maybe 30, sharp jaw, dark hair, good shoes. He looked like ads in subway stations. He looked like someone who could have walked past like everyone else. But he didn't. He looked up the street, then down, like he was checking the address on his phone. And then his eyes landed on the small bundle in the doorway, the girl with the swollen cheek, and the shivering dog. He stopped walking. His name was Ethan Cole. If you Googled him, Nora didn't know what Googling was at that moment. You would find stories about the youngest founder to sell his app, about New York's tech, miracle, about The Bachelor, philanthropist who gives to animal rescues. He had grown up in a cramped apartment in Queens with parents who worked nights. He had not forgotten what it felt like when rent was a question. Now he had more money than he knew what to do with and a penthouse, near the park that sometimes felt like an expensive echo. He had been on that block because he was thinking of buying a small warehouse space for a project. Money made you look at buildings differently, but hunger and cold made you look at people differently. "Hey," he said softly, stepping closer so he wouldn't startle her. "Hey, sweetheart," Nora stiffened. At night, men talking to you could mean bad things. She pulled Rusty a little behind her. "We're fine." He crouched down so he was on her level. Up close, he saw she was little. 10, maybe. "Eyes too old. You sure?" he asked. "Your face..." "I fell," she said automatically. "Did you?" She didn't answer. He looked at the dog. "He yours?" "He's mine," Nora said fiercely. "You can't take him." Ethan lifted his hands. "I'm not here to take anything." He hesitated. Did anyone help you?" "Some people," she said. Then some kids took the money. He felt anger rise sharp and hot. Kids stealing from a kid. "I'm sorry," he said, and meant it. She shrugged like it was weather. "It happens. Where are your parents?" "Gone. Both? My mom died. My dad's not here. Do you have somewhere to sleep?" "Here. In the doorway?" "It doesn't rain here." That did it. There are moments when a human being quietly decides, okay, this is mine now. This problem, this person, mine. Ethan had donated to shelters, funded after-school programs, written checks big enough to get his name on things. But checks never looked back at you with hollowed-out 10-year-old eyes. He took off his coat and put it around her shoulders. It was too big, heavy, warm. She gripped it. "I can't keep this." "You can for tonight. It looks expensive." "It is," he said, smiling a little. "But I can get another one." "You can't get another you." She stared at him, confused. People usually gave her 1s, 5s, soup. Not coats and sentences like that. "Listen," he said slowly, aware of how this sounded, of how the world was, of how girls were taught not to go with strangers. "My name is Ethan. I live close. I can get you warm, and him. I can get you food, real food. We can call someone you trust. A social worker. The police. Whoever. You don't have to stay in the street tonight." "What if you're bad?" she asked, narrow-eyed. "Good question," he said. "You're smart." He pulled out his phone and showed her his website, his company, his face on articles. "I'm very Googleable," he said with a small laugh. You can even call 911 right now and tell them you're going in a car with Ethan Cole, okay? I can hand them the phone." That level of transparency was disarming. Nora didn't know much, but she knew bad people didn't offer to talk to cops. She looked at Rusty. "He comes. Of course. He sleeps inside. He can sleep. On my couch if he wants." She bit her lip. Inside. Warm. Food. A man who talked slowly and didn't shout. A dog who needed heat too. Her stomach growled loud enough for him to hear. "I have lasagna," he said, remembering the leftovers, "and hot chocolate." That decided it. "Okay," she said, standing, the coat around her like a cape. "But if you hurt him, I'll scream. Deal," Ethan said. "And if anyone tries to hurt you, I'll do the screaming." He opened the back door of the car. Rusty sniffed the leather, hesitant. Ethan patted the seat. "Up, buddy." Rusty, sensing this man was packed now, jumped in. Nora slid in beside him, eyes wide. She had been in cars before, but not ones that smelled like new and success. The heater hummed. The city outside was a cold, harsh movie. Inside was a warm room. On the drive uptown, Nora kept looking out the window. "Do you always live here?" she asked. "In New York?" "Yeah. You got family?" "My parents are in Florida now, retired. I don't have kids." "Why?" He smiled sadly. "Didn't meet the right person yet. And I work too much." She studied him, this man with good hair and kind eyes. "You look lonely," she said, not as an insult. As an observation, he blinked. Kids didn't usually read him that well. "Sometimes," he admitted. "Do you?" "I'm with Rusty." Good answer. When they pulled into the underground garage, Nora gasped. "This is like a movie," she whispered. "It's just a building," he said, suddenly self-conscious. "You're allowed to not be impressed." "I'm impressed." In the elevator, she held Rusty's collar. When the doors opened into his apartment, a wide, bright space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, Nora stopped. "You live in the sky," she breathed. "It feels like it," he said. "Come on, shoes off. Let's get you food." Rusty trotted in, nails clicking, sniffing plants, couches, everything. Ethan didn't shout. He just laughed. "Okay, big guy, bath later." In the kitchen, he heated the lasagna, poured hot chocolate, sliced bread, put out a bowl of water and leftover chicken for Rusty. Nora ate like someone who had been polite for too long and now was safe. Big bites, then embarrassed slower ones. "You can eat," Ethan said. "There's more." She nodded, cheeks full. After, he cleaned Rusty's side, checking for bruises from the kick. "You're a brave one," he murmured to the dog. "You protected her." "Good boy." "He did," Nora said, proud. "He always does." "People didn't," Ethan said quietly. She shrugged. He called a friend, Maya, a lawyer who worked with foster cases. He explained quickly. She said, "You know this is complicated, right? You can't just keep her." "I know," he said. "But she's not going back to the street tonight." "Good," Maya said. "I'll come over in the morning. We'll do it right." That night, Ethan made up the guest room bed with soft blankets. Nora stood in the doorway, eyes shining like Christmas. "For me?" "For you," he said. "And Rusty can sleep right there." Rusty had already chosen, curled up at the foot like he'd been doing it 10 years. Nora sat on the bed, ran her fingers over the duvet. "It's warm. That's the idea." Ethan hesitated. "You want me to leave the door open?" "Yeah, okay." He turned to go. "Ethan?" "Yeah? Thank you," he smiled. "Sleep, kiddo." And for the first time since her mother died, Nora slept in a real bed. No sirens, no boots passing, no fear of someone pulling at her backpack. Just blankets, a dog, and the white noise of a city outside that, for once, could not get in. Morning in a safe place tastes different. It smelled like coffee and toast. It sounded like a shower running, not pipes banging. It felt like waking up without having to check if your shoes were still there. Nora sat up slowly, surprised her body didn't ache from concrete. Rusty thumped his tail. Sunlight poured in through a gap in the curtains, painting the room gold. She padded out to the kitchen, still in the too big t-shirt Ethan had given her. He was at the counter, laptop open, glasses on. "Good morning," he said, like this was normal, like he had always had a 10-year-old in his house. "How'd you sleep?" "Good," she said. "Your house is quiet." "It can be," he said. "Sometimes too quiet." Rusty trotted over and stuck his nose in Ethan's hand. "You hungry again? You're gonna get spoiled." After breakfast, Maya arrived. She was in her 30s, too, with curly hair and a coat that said, "I walk around the city a lot." She sat with Nora at the table. "So," Maya said gently, "Ethan told me a bit. I'm sorry about your mom." "Thanks," Nora said, eyes down. "We have to do some paperwork, okay? We can't just pretend none of this exists. But the good news is, Ethan can apply to foster you, and eventually, if everything checks out, he can adopt you." "Adopt?" Nora asked, tasting the word. "It means," Ethan said, "that I get to say you're my daughter, and you get to say I'm your dad." Nora blinked fast. "Really?" "If you want," he said quickly. "If you don't, we can just—" "I want," she said. "But Rusty too," Maya laughed. "We can't adopt a dog officially with the court, but no one's taking Rusty." Rusty woofed like, "Good." The process took weeks. They met with social workers. They confirmed Nora truly had no living parent to claim her. They looked at Ethan's background, his home, his finances. He passed. Money helps, but his eyes helped more. People could see he meant it. During those weeks, Ethan didn't just keep Nora warm. He built her a life. He took her shopping, jeans that fit, sneakers, a red coat with a hood. She twirled in front of the mirror, unable to believe clothes could be new. He took Rusty to the vet. They got shots, a bath, a blue collar with a tag that said, "Rusty." If lost, call Ethan and Nora. Nora stared at it. "We're a family," she whispered. "Yeah," Ethan said, throat tight. "We are." He enrolled her in school, an elementary school on the Upper West Side that had after-school art, and a counselor who knew about trauma. On the first day, Nora was terrified. "What if they ask where I lived before?" she asked in the car. "You tell the truth," Ethan said. "That's part of your story. And if anyone is mean, you tell me, or your teacher. Or Maya. You have people now." She nodded, hand on Rusty's head. Rusty wasn't allowed inside the school, but every morning he walked her to the door, sat, and watched until she vanished inside. Other kids noticed. "Your dog is so cool," a girl named Ava said. "He lived on the street with me," Nora said, not to brag but to explain. "Whoa," a boy named Jaden said. "For real?" "Yeah. Did you eat pizza every day?" "Sometimes," Nora said. "Sometimes not." Kids had questions, but they didn't mock. Because Nora didn't act ashamed. Ethan had told her the first week, "What happened to you is not your fault, so it can't be your shame." She had held on to that. At night, they walked Rusty in the park. Leaves were now piled, crisp and brown. Winter was close, but Nora had gloves and a hat. Rusty had a sweater Ethan bought as a joke, and then kept because Nora squealed. One evening, as they sat on a bench, hot pretzels in hand, Nora asked, "Why did you stop that night?" Ethan knew what she meant. "Because I saw you." "Lots of people saw me. Really saw you," he said. "Sometimes people look, but they don't see. I remember being a kid and wishing someone would look long enough to know something was wrong. I promised myself, if I ever could, I'd stop." She was quiet, thinking. Then she said, "I won't walk past either." He smiled. "That's the lesson, huh?" "Yeah," she said. "Lesson 1. If you see someone cold, help. Even if you can't take them home, you can do something." "Good lesson." "Lesson 2, she said, holding up 2 fingers in her glove. "Dogs can save you," he laughed. "They really can. Lesson 3, she thought. Sometimes life is bad, then all at once it's good. So you can't give up on the bad day." Ethan stared at her, amazed. "You're 10. "I was on the street," she said, as if that explained the wisdom. And it did. That Christmas, the adoption was final. They went to the courthouse. The judge, an older woman with kind eyes, looked over her glasses. Do you want this man to be your father? She asked Nora. Yes, Nora said without hesitation. Do you understand that means he is responsible for you and you are part of his family forever? Yes. Do you understand? The judge said, smiling. That means when you are a teenager, you are allowed to roll your eyes at him? Nora giggled. Ethan rolled his eyes first. I hereby grant the adoption of Nora. She paused. Do you want to keep your last name, sweetheart? Nora looked at Ethan. Can I be Cole? You can, he said, eyes wet. I hereby grant the adoption of Nora Cole, the judge said, gavel light on the desk. People clapped. Maya cried. Ethan hugged Nora, then Rusty jumped up, tail wagging, so they all ended in a tangled, laughing pile. After, they went to a diner, because some things should stay simple. Nora ordered pancakes and bacon and orange juice. She ate slowly, savoring, because now she didn't have to rush, didn't have to hide, didn't have to save half for tomorrow. Ethan watched her and thought about that first night in the doorway. How close the world had come to failing her. How many kids the world did fail. Hey, he said quietly, one day if you want, we can start something. A fund to help other kids like you. Like a place where they can bring their dogs? She asked. Exactly. A shelter that says yes to dogs. Call it, she thought, chewing. Call it Rusty's room, he grinned. Done. Years later, people would know about Rusty's room, about the girl who used to sell her rabbit in the cold, and now ran a program that kept kids and their pets together when life fell apart. They would tell the story on local news, a young tech millionaire and his adopted daughter giving back. They would show pictures of a brown dog with kind eyes who had once chosen a girl on a cold day. But on that first night back home, it was simpler. Nora stood by the big window, New York twinkling below, snow just beginning to fall thin and soft. Rusty sat beside her, head on her leg. Ethan came up behind her and put his hand on her shoulder. Looks cold out there, he said. Yeah, she said, but we're warm. She turned to him. Thank you for seeing me, he swallowed. Thank you for letting me. Outside, the city kept rushing, kept ignoring and noticing, kept hurting and healing. But inside that apartment on that winter night, a 10-year-old girl who had sold her toys to buy soup now had a dad, a dog, a bed, and a future. And that, in the end, was the last lesson. Sometimes the smallest kindness is the door. Sometimes the smallest girl is the miracle. If this story touched your heart, even just a little, please tap the like button. It helps more people discover these quiet, human stories. And if you believe, like Nora did, that kindness can still change the world, subscribe to Heartwarming Stories Archive and stay with us. Every week, we share new stories about hope, compassion, and the small moments that make life worth living. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the smallest kindness is the door to a new beginning.